what can we find there? Like, what oftentimes is the silver lining? And this is it in a nutshell, I think. Like, life plugs along, right? And then we hit a moment. And these are threshold moments. And it could be the phone call that you get with a diagnosis or a challenge in a relationship that feels insurmountable, or being called into the boss's office and handed a pink slip. Like, the list goes on. And literally, it feels like the bottom drops out of life. And the bottom does feel like it drops out of life. And the amazing part of God's providence is not that God's like, okay, I'm going to test them here. I'm going to send them a pink slip, or I'm going to make them get divorced, or I'm going to get a test. Like, God doesn't do that. God sort of holds life with this very loving way, and things happen that God would not prefer happens. That's life too. That just happened because we have free will. We can make decisions. And so life goes like this, but God's always going to show up somehow at the bottom. And it's pretty remarkable. And it may not be in that exact moment. It may be something that takes time, that we see over years. It's I think sometimes it's that light that we find at the bottom. We may not find it in this life. Some people really may not find it in this life. But I certainly have seen it many times. I imagine you have as well. And that's that idea of threshold wisdom. And when the bottom falls out, there's a certain wisdom we get after the shock, after we're stunned, after we spend 20 minutes on the floor or 20 minutes crying. Oftentimes there's a piece of knowledge there at the bottom that's pretty significant. So I want to speak to that. I want to speak to that as from a Christian perspective. And one way to see that, and one way we see it in my particular Christian tradition, is this line here. When the demands of the outward or earthly self go to sleep, as they do during times of misfortune, distress, or sickness. So like misfortune will do it, bottom falls out. Distress will do it, bottom falls out. Sickness will do it, bottom falls out. We immediately start to think reverent thoughts and form good intentions. And that's kind of interesting. That's that threshold wisdom. Again, like everything kind of collapses. And yet at the bottom, we really find some things to be true. And I know again and again, I'm totally humbled working with people going through all kinds of different challenges. And as they go through these challenges, it's like, wow, they'll say things that are just so profound. And I look at it, just think, holy cow, how did they come to know that? And I see that again and again and again. And it may be seen through tears. They may not even realize that they're saying it, but there just is this profound knowledge down at that bottom piece. And it's not a knowledge that, well, life's going to get better. It's not that at all. We were talking about this in a small group we had. It's that it's a knowledge about that God is here too. God is with me as I walk through this. It's not that life will get better. It's that life will be different and changed, and there will still be joy moving forward, however, in a different kind of form. Though that's where true threshold knowledge is. And it's like, this is a little rant. So we have to be so careful of anybody who's peddling the idea that, hey, just do this, and God will reward you with, you'll feel great and terrific after all this stuff. That's not how it really works. We go forward, as Anne Lamott famously said, as if we've broken our leg. The leg heals, but we'll always dance with a limp. And I think that's very true. And that's been very helpful to me to know, like, oh yeah, threshold wisdom. Part of that is that we will dance again, and we will dance with a limp. Very important. So friends, the question becomes then, how do we live that, now as best we can, without needing to go through that? Well, first off, I want to say, like, we will go through that. For everybody watching this, your life, I'm sure, the bottom has fallen out more than once, and the bottom will fall out again. Like, that just is that's how it goes. And yet there are ways that we can practice this and practice it very, very deeply. And that's, so much of that is just the gift of attention, like really, really trying to be attentive and guard your attention. Guard it, seeing it as sacred, and start to see like how different things work, and just being able to look at things. I think I was thinking this morning, and it may seem like it's not quite connected, but it is in my mind. Byron Katie has a beautiful little 4-part thing, and I think it is one of those little tools that gets us to the threshold knowledge, gets us to the core of things. So something comes along and we catastrophize about it, and we have all these worries and concerns and judgments of other people and judgments of this and judgment of that. And what we can ask is a 4-part thing, which is, first off, do I know this to be true? Second thing, do I absolutely know it to be true? Now, we're not talking the event here. We're talking, are our interpretation on things. Do I know it's true? Do I absolutely know it's true? Number 3 is, what am I with this thought? Number 4, what am I without this thought? So we were talking, I was meeting with a couple, we had a wonderful conversation about catastrophizing and how much of the time, he's self-employed. So the bottom falls out on certain things and it's easy to go, well, that's it. We're bankrupt, we're homeless, we're all that stuff. Well, do you know that to be true? Do you absolutely know that to be true? Second question. What are you with that thought when you're all spun out about, being destitute and homeless? What are you when you're with that thought? How do you act? And the second part is, what are you without that thought? Like when that thought goes. And when that thought goes, the beautiful part is that that's the silence into which another voice can speak. Like we pull those thoughts out, those catastrophizing thoughts, and we come to this deep core of things. And the deep core of things, that's where God, oh my goodness, does God speak so powerfully there, so incredibly powerfully there. And that's threshold wisdom. That's what it looks like. That's what it feels like. Some simple ones might just be, we lose somebody tragically. We lose somebody, our heart's broken. Our hearts will continue to be broken the rest of our life. No doubt that's true. A piece of threshold wisdom that we might get at the bottom might just be a simple little, and you will see them again. And you will see them again. I know that to be absolutely true. I imagine most of you feel like that's absolutely true as well. That's threshold wisdom. It doesn't mitigate the pain. It doesn't say, well, nothing to see here. This person didn't pass away. No, you lost someone you love. It just says at the end of it all, like when we get rid of catastrophizing, we get rid of all those fears as best we can, which is going to take time. No, nothing wrong with that. Well, it's going to take it's a journey getting there. But then at the bottom, what am I without these thoughts? When those thoughts go, threshold wisdom enters, and it will tell you very profound things. And so practice that as best you can, even outside of those really difficult circumstances, because we really want to be able to see. We really want to be able to see how life works. And it's where this is so difficult to talk about and to articulate. But that's why most spiritual traditions will talk about the need to die before you die. The idea that we need to do the best we can to look at our earthly, lifely experience and get that it will have a lot of ups and it will have a lot of downs. And how do we find the deep truth that's way down underneath it, going down and down, thinking here of Carl Jung, and the Jungian philosophy of, climbing ladders down to this little clod of earth of which we are. It's coming down to that basic part of who we are. And then God speaks into that. Beautiful, beautiful place to be. So that's the thought for today, friends. Do the best you can, guarding your attention so you can see the threshold wisdom. Do the best you can to, as they say in religious circles, die before you die. Not literally, obviously, but spiritually. Allow that natural part to die and go, and use Byron Katie's little thing to get to that, so you can get to that threshold wisdom, so you can know what you truly know. And that's a beautiful place to be, my friends. So with that, I hope that makes sense. And what we're going to do now is we're going to shift gears. We're going to do a little prayer, a little blessing, and then we'll say hi to our friends on Facebook. So please join me in taking a little breath. A meditation from the Old Testament. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I. Be still and know that. Be still and know. Be still and. Be still. Be. Our Father, who art in the heavens, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven, so upon the earth. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you, bring you peace, and bring you home. Amen. All right, dear friends, let's get a little quick peek here at anyone who might have been able to join us this morning. I'm joining us from our little sunroom here. It's incredibly beautiful out here in Bernathen, Pennsylvania. Mandy, great to see you, Mandy, and wishing you all the very best. Hope you're doing great out there in the Midwest. Marcus, good morning to you, buddy. I hope you're doing quite well. And let's flip on over to here. All right, Linda, yes, joining you, wishing you a great weekend as well. So, dear friends, God bless all of you. Have a great weekend, and we will see a wonderful Sunday service ahead for you. We hope you can join us this Sunday, 10:30 a.m. at New Church Live. God bless. Take